What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Filsinger Games Character Spotlight with Mike and Brock.
Mike,
I'm Brock, and tonight we're going to continue through CPC 2108 with Mike Fortune, Hitman for Hire, and Greg, the Hammer Valentine. I couldn't find my Valentine Champions of the Galaxy card, but so we're going to use a stand-in with his Legends of Wrestling card here.
yeah, I think it's the same card.
I am not sure, but
But we got a quick announcement to make. Our third co-host, who you haven't seen in a few months, Jeff, has finally informed us because his schedule changed at work, and he has like 19 kids, that he's not going to be able to join us really much on a regular basis anymore. So he's asked us, hey, I got to step down, and he's not caught up. So we've now passed where he was, and he was our main guy, for updates, and so he doesn't feel right, talking about wrestlers he's never used. Doesn't sit well with him. So he said, "Hey, I'm going to step down." So we got some calls out for a new co-host. So when we get one, it'll be a surprise, and they will just appear.
There you go. So yeah, two new guys. Courtesy of time travel,
They're a tag team.
a tag team known as Third Planet.
Yep.
Yep. Part of the Hitman for Hire group. We have Mike Fortune and Greg Valentine. I think these cards are different. I think the GWF version of Greg was a little tougher.
See if I can.
There you go.
Greg and myself in Cleveland just before I almost went up to your hotel room with him.
I have a picture of myself with Greg on that weekend as well.
Sat for a few hours talking to him, trading some stories. Signed a card for me. He
There you
didn't
go.
charge me.
Yeah, this is leftover Bendis art for we had switched to Jeremy Sue by this point, but
Yep.
these cards were using Bendis art.
I actually have the original art for my drawing.
Nice.
They gave it to me. I didn't have to bid on it or anything like that. It was gifted.
Well, that's good, as it should be.
I do have a bunch of these. A couple of them signed by Brian Bendis.
Ooh.
Little fun story. Brian was at the Toronto Comic Con. And I told people, I'm like, I'm on first name basis with Brian Bendis. And they're like, no, you're not. Because at this point in time, this is going back about 15 years. Brian is writing everything,
Mm-hmm.
Marvel. And his lineup is like 700 people deep. And I'm about, pretty close to the front. And so there's like a 4 foot gap between, where you stand and then you approach them to get your signature.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any comics to sign, but I got some cards. So his head's down because he's just in signing mode, and I just throw the cards down on the table. And he grabs it, looks up, and he's like, "Jesus, Mike, you got a haircut." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, how are things going?" I'm like, "Pretty good." He goes, "Yeah, I haven't seen Tom in a while." And he goes, "How's Paul, Tom's brother?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's doing pretty good." And he's like, "Hey, uh, you want to come to the after party with us?" He goes, "I'll put your name down on the program." I'm like, "I come up with a buddy of mine." He's like, "Tell me his name. I'll put it on." My buddy was just right there, and he's like, "Oh, we can't. We got to get back, to the farm because Dave's a farmer." And I'm like,
Way to go, Dave.
"I know." So that was my. But let's start off with Greg.
All right. Do you want to dramatically read his bio?
Let's grab the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Greg the Hammer Valentine, former singles and tag team champion in several wrestling federations on Earth in the 20th century, Valentine was brought forward in time, like his tag partner, Mike Fortune, to be part of Kraken's Hitman for Hire. Being from the old school of Earth wrestling, Valentine's style showcases the combination of scientific and unscientific approaches. Since his arrival in 2108, Valentine was unreliable as far as meeting his commitments to wrestle. Kraken waited for his chance and punished Valentine for his attitude problem by orchestrating an attack on Valentine by former partner Mike Fortune.
Ooh.
Valentine forces with Valentine joined forces with Kraken's daughter Sniper in 2111 against Kraken and the Society of Death. He vanished soon after the GWS returned to Dimension K, blowing off a dinner date with Sniper. It is assumed he returned to Earth on his own to his own time.
There's a story behind that story.
Yes. For anyone that don't know doesn't know, so Tom, one of his favorite wrestlers is Greg's dad, Johnny Valentine. I knew this and I was appearing on a card with Greg. And I had introduced already Tom to Bundy, and then I Tom comes up and I introduce him to Greg, and he said, all three of us are going to be put in the game. And then Tom called me up and he's like, "Hey, I want to invite one of them to the con, surprise everybody." He goes, "Who should I get?" I'm like, "Bundy." Like, he plays the game.
Hmm.
He's into it. And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm a bigger fan of Greg." I'm like, Greg's not a reliable guy. I Trust me, I've been on shows with Greg, and I've been on shows where Greg's supposed to appear and doesn't show. And he's like, "No, no, no, I'm gonna get Greg." Okay. Guess who didn't show? And then it became a joke where there'd be a Greg Valentine poster and people would bid on it to tear the poster up.
Hmm.
And I think you won it one year. Did you?
No, my plan was to win it and not tear it up.
Oh, that's right.
But because people got wind of what I was planning to do, they made sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, Pete Fusco did it a few times, I think.
Uh-huh. I was just trying. That was my goal, was to get it and then not destroy it. Because I was a unapologetic sympathizer of Greg Valentine throughout the entire run after he no-showed the con. I came up with excuse after excuse for him. It was kind of a gimmick for a while.
And it
But
was like his mom died, and this and that. And
well,
finally, years later,
that's what he said that year, I remember.
yeah,
So I remember signing a sympathy card for him.
yeah. And years later, Tom and Greg, buried the hatchet.
All is well now.
Yep,
He appeared at 2015 at Wrestling Geek Fest in Cleveland.
yep.
And we have photographic evidence of it. And he was super nice. He spent a lot more time with me than anybody else really ever did, of the guests and stuff. And he didn't charge me anything. I just kind of sat next to him and we just started talking. So,
And he hung out with a lot of people. He just liked talking wrestling, I guess. He's
hmm.
retired. He had been retired.
Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Greg after meeting him.
Yep. And he gives a really good shoot interview on. You can find it on YouTube, where he's in like a sporty shirt and uh, like a blazer, big gold necklace,
Hmm.
and it's a really good interview if you find it on YouTube.
I have watched it. What I liked about it, what I noticed about it, is he didn't run anybody down.
No,
He just told stories, and like if they even tried baiting him to say something bad about somebody, he never took it. I noticed, at least, like he just wasn't that kind of guy with that.
so I got to go behind the scenes um at a comic book convention in Hamilton, and there was like 12 wrestlers on the card. Not on the card, but doing an autograph signing. So I
Yeah.
got to hang back. And at one point, I'm just talking to Greg. We're just, we got to know each other. We're just shooting the shit. And the Nasty Boys come up and they start talking to Greg. And I just I step back because it's a conversation, that they're having.
Hmm.
But I want to hear what's going on. And I did not know this, but Greg Valentine, because his sister or something like that was married to Skaggs.
Okay.
So Greg went out on a limb and got Vince to hire the Nasty Boys
Hmm.
in the WWF. That's how they got in. This was pre Hogan, where they made friends with Hogan. They were AWA guys,
Yeah, yeah.
and Greg Valentine was the one that went to bat for him.
That's cool.
And I guess Greg said, yeah. He goes, if you guys screwed up, I probably would have lost my job.
Hmm.
So and it was just interesting to listen to them thank Greg all these years later for getting him in the
Yeah.
WWF and getting their big push.
Hmm. That's cool. Yeah, the character of Greg Valentine did not have a very long run in the GWF. I think there might have been some sour grapes that cut his run short, but he was only in the Fed from 2108 to 2111.
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely some sour grapes.
Yeah, I don't think being at that con that he was supposed to be at and he wasn't, I don't think anybody was too bent on a shape about it. I think they would have, I don't think, let's just say, I don't think anybody came because Greg was going to be there. I think the people that
No,
were there were going to be there anyway.
yeah,
So,
it's different because, like I said, Bundy plays the game. Well,
hmm.
he played it because Mark Ashby actually called him, you know, called Bundy up on an interview, a radio interview.
Hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, I heard you play the GWF wrestling game." And Bundy freaked out. He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "One of my buddies from Canada, me, got me into this wrestling game." And he goes, "It's awesome." And blah, blah. And he was hyping the game up all his own.
Hmm. Yeah, where did I meet Bundy? But he was super cool to talk to too.
Yeah,
He did a show, I think it was in Cleveland that I went to, and he had a table set up and I was able to talk to him.
yeah.
He's definitely
I
very
did
down to earth
multiple
and fun.
shows with Chris where he was so wrestling.
Yeah.
He was one of the cooler guys. But let's look at Greg's card.
I can't be too accurate on it. It looks like it's a little bit different from his Legends one. I don't know where my other one is. I am missing about half my cards right now. They're in this house somewhere, but right now they're unaccounted for. They're basically all the ones that I used on stream at one point. And I do think I used Greg on stream at one point. So
Now that robe is a real robe. I've worn it. It weighs about 45 pounds.
nice.
Uh, he's got a he's got the he's using the figure four on this.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was his finisher, but he had to be careful with it because, if Ric Flair was in a promotion, he couldn't use it.
Hmm.
And it's a +2 on this.
Yep. On his Legends
Because,
card as well.
yeah, because nobody gives up to the figure four.
Nobody.
Like I do remember his real life feud against Ronnie Garvin. I always used to make fun of it that the loser had to start wearing knee pads.
Rugged Ronnie Garvin.
But with Greg, I do plan to use him as a tag team partner for myself. I'm going to keep the third Earth, third
Yeah, there
planet.
you
I got no reason not to.
go. Hmm.
But I will have Greg turn, whether he turns on me and I become heel, or I turn on him.
Okay.
He becomes, you know, what either I haven't decided whether he's going to be, the face or the good guy. Because for him, it's, I don't think I've ever seen him as a good guy.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember. Maybe later WCW because he just had I've been around forever, so everybody likes me kind of aura.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember him ever having a babyface run.
Now I can remember the card where he first got signed, where I wrestled with him. He was taking on our champion Jamie Jackson in a non-title match. we're in wrestling in Brantford, and the crowd is insane for Valentine. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
so pumped. I remember Valentine signals for the figure four, gets Jamie in the center of the ring, signals for the figure four, bends over to go get it, and Jamie pops him in the face, and the crowd's like, "What? What?" And then they wrestle a bit more. He gets him down, signals for the figure four, goes, breaks it again, stops him, knocks him over. And people are like, "No, this like you can see the crowd getting angry now that this guy keeps breaking Greg Valentine's figure four."
hmm
And then gets him down again, signals for it, puts it on it. The crowd goes nuts. Jamie reaches over and grabs the rope. He's got a break, and the crowd's now just losing their mind. And it's one of the funniest things. Like, and this was all planned out by Greg because Greg had told him, we're going to get the crowd so against you because he knew the crowd was going to cheer for him
Oh
because of.
yeah. Right.
And the fourth time he put it on, he gave up. The crowd was like, "I can't believe it! I can't." And then when he finally submitted, the place just erupted. It was
Yeah.
crazy. But it was 101 storytelling at its
Yeah.
best.
Which doesn't exist anymore.
No, and you don't expect, somebody on the indie scene to break the figure four three times.
hmm And there's not many guys that in his position that would let somebody do that.
Yep.
Like he would, typically a guy of his stature would come in just to collect a paycheck.
Yep. And he was all about telling the story and making everyone look good.
hmm
Even a guy on the indie scene, he was all about making them look good because then when also he goes over, it makes them look good too because
Yeah,
yeah, he's their champ. He doesn't want to take away it from our champ.
exactly. Exactly. Instead of doing the classic time limit draw, make it a non-title match.
Yeah,
How many time limit draws have you seen where a legendary figure comes in to fight the local champion?
I've seen it. One promotion I worked in, Samoa Joe. That's
hmm
a side story. Samoa Joe comes in, wins the title, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm never coming back here." Like straight up told him, "I'm not coming back."
Yeah, here. Yep.
So I was like, "Oh,
I
and
remember Petey Williams fought this guy Facade in Youngstown, and he was the champion, and it went to a time limit draw. And Petey Williams got on the mic and goes, "There's no time limit draws in wrestling. When did this start?" I thought it was hilarious.
but for Greg here, his card, I don't feel right trying to power creep it.
Yeah, I mean his raw rating is 30-33, so he's slightly better in tag matches. I mean, I guess the power creep make the figure four +3, so
Now
you can
with
get some
with
wins with
with
it.
Greg, he's one of those guys, breaking into the legends part. But he's somebody you could make a tag team with, like a tag team Greg.
hmm
Like this is near the end of his run, Greg, I think. But if you made Greg where he's U.S. champion fighting Roddy Piper, that's
hmm
going to be a tougher card.
Let's take a look because they do have different versions of him in the Legends game.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, there's a couple different. Let's check out his raw ratings there. I think the color card, his newest color card isn't listed here, but the one that you just showed is on here. So the card I have in my hand is a 30-36. So it might have the same single stats. They're both the same. Yeah, they're actually the same, the
Yeah.
stat wise. I know there's a third card, but it's not listed on the because they haven't updated the wiki in over 10 years. So it's not on here. I enjoyed the wiki. I wish somebody would pick it up and run with it because it was good for because the tag teams on here, anybody that ever had like a tag team run in Legends, they have listed in here, which is pretty cool with their team name and stuff like that. And It was pretty helpful if you ran a Legends Fed just to give you some ideas.
Yeah. How many tags does he have on that card? Two?
On this one, he has, yeah, two on this one, so it
Yeah.
might be the same. One on one and one on two.
Yep.
He only has one down on his whole card with a leave option, but he has a pin of 7-4. I don't know if that's the same on his Champions card or not, but that'll hurt him.
And he's got an A ring and B's, I think, or something like that.
This one has a B in ropes, an A in turnbuckle, A ring, and B death jump.
Okay.
So they're probably fairly similar. I mean, the raw rating for singles is 30 on both.
Yeah.
So he probably just has a couple more tags on his Legends card to set him aside. But yeah, I'm glad that everybody made amends and Greg's a friend of the family again. I did enjoy my defending him at GalactiCon run. That was pretty fun.
Good times.
Yeah, yeah. Kirk Campbell, I think, got the most joy out of that.
Yeah, I could see Kirk doing that. Or as Steve Inscott called him, Kurt Campbell.
Yeah, Kurt.
But let's switch over to myself.
Ooh, look at that. You even have one of these ones.
This is back in the day when I had hair.
There you go.
My goatee was a little darker. I think I was 26.
Okay. In 98.
Because I had just broken in. So I was still in my first year of wrestling when I got put into the game.
Nice.
So I used to come to the ring looking like this.
Hmm. I got to see it once.
Yeah, I can't remember who I wrestled that night. I think Jim Fury.
That sounds familiar.
That's where Jim took a plancha over the top rope and we didn't use padded floor, so I had to catch him or he was eating concrete.
Didn't you bite your tongue pretty bad in that match?
Could have.
'Cause I remember you showing me afterwards. It was pretty bad.
I won because Jim's finisher was a super kick, and he went to super kick me, and I took a back bump and punched him in the nuts, and then wrapped him up for the pin because I was a cheating bad guy.
What a jerk.
I know. I was a very good bad guy. But this card here, I remember Tom asking me to create the card.
Hmm.
And this is the funny part. And the guys like Chad and Tim make fun of it because we didn't know how to spell enziguri.
Uh-huh. That's not a word and you can find typically on a
Yeah,
spell
and
check.
this is back before Google didn't exist,
Right.
and so enziguri became dropkick to the back of head.
Hmm. That was a running joke for a while.
Yeah, because I could do an enziguri, and I did it quite often. I'd go to kick somebody, and they'd catch my foot. Boom! And I could, being as tall as I am, I could reach up and give somebody an enziguri.
Or a drop kick to the back of the head.
Yep. And the 6 o'clock suplex was just a straight up vertical. But I do the Davy Boy Smith thing and try to hold them up for 30 seconds.
Hmm.
So you get the crowd cheering. Hitman Special later on became my finisher in the second CPC card, which was a German suplex into a choke slam.
Okay. That was a significant bump in stats too,
Yeah,
the
that's all
CPC
Mark
card.
Ashby.
Hmm.
Because Mark's like, yeah, I'm going to give you Tom's moving you. He said, he doesn't want to get lost in the crowd, so and he wants to give you a bump up. So I got moved to a +3 finisher, and yeah, the card's a little better. But my stats pretty much, -2 power, +1 agility. C death jump, which is probably about right. Ropes and turnbuckle B's, ring A because I could fight, and I get to keep you down.
Hmm.
This is a fun part too. So I was one of the I got to have an official debut match at GalactiCon,
I remember that.
and Tom wanted me to have it, and against current champion at that time, which was Matador. So I was coming in for a non-title matchup, and Rob Bobien was chosen to wrestle with Matador. I wrestled as myself, and I pinned the Matador. I
Nice.
upset him to get a title match, and Tom was like, "Your card's too tough. We got to drop it."
That happens a lot at Galacticon. When I was looking for my Greg Valentine card, I found the overkill cards that were nixed. The original overkill.
And I think it was because I rolled like Hangman like 4 times in a row.
Hmm.
And Rob just had a bad pin.
That's just how it goes. It's dice.
Yep.
It's all everybody. That's what's good about this game is everybody has a chance to beat anybody, from the weakest jobber card to, the toughest guy. Like it happens occasionally, which is cool.
Yep. But yeah, that's the story behind the card. And I think even in my um I thought it was funny, but I didn't give my dramatic reading. I'm
What we-
legitimately 6'5.5", but I made myself 6'4.5" because wrestlers always inflate their height. So I'm like, I'm gonna be just for a joke, I'm lowering my height.
There you go.
So here's my dramatic reading.
Yes.
A product of the independent earth wrestling circuit of the late 20th century, Mike Fortune was brought forward in time to the GWF as a member of the Hitman for Hire group. Adept at both mat wrestling and brawling, Fortune found most of his time spent in tag team matches with fellow 20th century fighter Greg the Hammer Valentine, his third planet. Valentine's repeated no-shows left Fortune to fight on his own or with a substitute partner much of the time. But he got his revenge and attacked Valentine after a Hitman match. He was called up to use his marksman skills as a hired gun. Once the Hitman became sidekicks of Cardenas and the Takeover team, and once Dark Justice and Spider were released from the team, Fortune became the key member on whom Kraken seemed to pinning his hopes. But then Kraken signed Eclipse away from Lord Nexus and the Titans, and Fortune was paired up with newcomer Tank in the team power play. Was this a mistake on Kraken's part? After all, the Hitman lost to the Titans in sudden death 2014, and Cardenas had snatched up the first services of Fortune and Tank in the absence of Kraken. Will this newly formed team be enough to challenge the power of the angry young men? Finisher is the Hangman. Now, I
Hmm.
will admit, it was a rarely used finisher, and I think that's why I used it because when I put it on, people were just shocked.
Hmm.
And it was invented by Michael Baron Scalia from the. He wrestled a lot in the Pittsburgh area,
Hmm.
and he's the nephew of um the guy who played Brute in the
Oh, okay.
James
Um,
Biavana.
okay. Malta the Damager.
Yep,
Yep.
that's his nephew.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I became friends with James after that, and then after the Cleveland show,
Hmm.
and I still talk to James to this day.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's an interesting. It was fun to be the first wrestler to be put into the game.
Yeah, it was a big deal because this predates Legends and everything like that. And
Yep.
yeah, I remember the big reveal at Galacticon, which is pretty cool. Getting to witness that live.
I always wondered what I look would have looked like if Snelly would have did the artwork,
Yeah.
but I kind of like having Bendis do it.
Hmm.
This is one of his better drawings, I got to
It
say.
is. I think they kind of missed the mark with Bendis. I think he was pretty good at drawing likenesses of actual people.
Yeah.
Like maybe if he would have came in and 10 years later, he could have been like a Legends guy doing the art for that. Although Warner's great too
Yep.
for
Oh,
likenesses.
Sunny Straight.
Hmm.
I got I got a Sunny Straight original art. I can't remember who. I think
Original art doesn't exist anymore. Warner and Daryl both do digital only,
yep.
which is, I mean, it's better for them, I'm sure. But that's a thing of the past, unfortunately. Now that I think about it out loud.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird little things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't do a Mount Rushmore because we had some more in-depth stories with Greg and myself, and we were able just to talk about that. Plus, letting people know we're going to be looking for a new co-host.
Hmm.
So that'll be coming up.
Be fun. And then we
So
got Galacticon. I think this will drop the week of Galacticon, in fact.
yep.
So looking forward to that. It'll be a good time.
Let's see, quickly on the calendar. So we're on
I
the
think it's the
second.
week of.
We got one more to drop next week, and
Hmm.
then the Mark Ashby interview will
Hmm.
have dropped on the 16th, and this one will drop on the 23rd.
Yep. So week of Galacticon.
Yep.
Cool.
But if you want to do your outro,
I need to pre-record this so we could just talk longer. Just trying to get this in. All right,
that's what
everybody.
Corey Olson does. He pre-records it.
That's the way to do it. He's smarter than I am. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're new here, please check that subscribe button below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Scroll on down to the description where you will find all of our friends who make Filsinger Games related content, including the official Filsinger Games podcast roll up, Uncharted Territory from the Legends team, Dizzy Dice from Lee Lamprey, Solo Promoter from Grant Brachoco. Grant is also here on YouTube. You'll find Dave Little's Heartland Championship Wrestling, Brad Plays 81, and Bucky 749. They do Filsinger Games related content as well. I'm on Twitch here or there. Um, it's been tough with the three kids, like Mark and we talked about with Mark last week. They're a handful. As they get older, I'm sure I'll be able to do more things, but for right now, I get on when I can. So hopefully that changes soon. And hopefully we see you all at Galacticon. Until next time, everybody, have a great one.
Night all.